But I've always said the good times become even better because you've been through those tough times. Let's stick together. Let's get some good results. Let's stay in League One.
We all love Shrewsbury Town, and you've heard me say before, next season is going to be an exciting one.
Well, delighted that our new first team manager at Gillingham Football Club, Gareth Ainsworth, has joined us.
Hi guys, it's Seb here from the review podcast from the League One Lowdown. Just jumping on quickly to say, don't forget to subscribe to the League One Lowdown YouTube channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers and we could really do with your support. All you have to do is just go on to our YouTube channel page and press the subscribe button. It really is much appreciated from myself and the rest of the boys, and thank you very much for watching this video and hope you enjoy the rest of our content.
Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown review podcast, preview podcast even. My name is Sam, and as always, I'm joined by Callum. We've done so many review episodes recently, Callum, in terms of other content. I'm a bit flustered there.
Yeah, it's a good start to the podcast. There we go. Yeah, no, it's another preview episode, and nice to have a full array of fixtures, even if Leyton Orient are a bit happy-go-lucky and getting a Thursday night fixture in, because why not?
Yeah, don't start me on that. I will probably have a moan when we talk about that fixture. There's a reason I put that fixture first.
I was talking to Seb on last week's preview podcast with you on your little travels, and we bypassed the international break conversation in kind of in memoriam to you, because we knew that you would love a bit of a rant about that.
You know me, I love my international rants because it just frustrates me so much.
No.
Another thing that's really frustrating me so much at the moment is the Predictions League. Obviously, I came back last week from my holiday thinking, right, it's time to catch Callum up. That's not gone well at all. With the 6 fixtures that we had last week, Callum, you got 2 correct scores, so congratulations to you. With another correct outcome as well, and then I got 1 correct score and a correct outcome, so you've extended your lead once again by a further 3 points.
I'll take it. I'm not looking too shabby, is it? There's only something. I think there's only 8 game weeks left, so 8 load of predictions, or somewhat like something like that. Anyway, for us, I don't want to say I've got it in the bag, but if I just like we've always said, if I just copy your predictions week after week after week, it's in my hands now.
Yeah, you're set. So I'm going to let you predict first from now on, and then I'm going to predict after.
Balls.
Just so you don't do that. So the scores, I'm on 207 and you're on 222. This is when we do an F1 style final day, and we do double points to make it really interesting.
So we don't know what a good score is, do we? Because we only did a bit of it last year, so we don't know what a good score is at all. But
no, and we changed the point scoring system as well.
Yeah, so we'll see, but I don't mind it. We'll see.
No, and if you want to be in the prize draw to win either a Lincoln or an Orient shirt, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because that is the only way you will win the shirt of the chosen club. So only one bit of admin this week. It's been a fairly quiet but dramatic week in League One, I think it's fair to say, with the announcement that Gareth Ainsworth was leaving Shrewsbury Town, which I literally copied the tweet and just put "oh" in our chat, because we were all pretty sure that he would go down with Shrewsbury and try and rebuild them, because the way when you listen to Gareth Ainsworth speak, he's always talking about rebuilding this club and making it a bit like what he did with Wycombe, like his baby, near enough. And after 22 games in charge, he's off.
It's very much got a football manager feel about it. When you've joined a club and it says tycoon takeover expected, and it's just not happened at all for him. I don't know what it is. It kind of feels like maybe the form, we don't know the inner workings of a football club, but maybe the form at Shrewsbury, we know it got off to a semi-decent start, but as news of this takeover failing, or the lack of news of it happening, more likely, as that kind of filtered through, maybe the belief from Gareth Ainsworth and even his players and the staff and just the whole feel around the club. Like we noted a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago as well, just the atmosphere around Shrewsbury has gone very flat.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like this lack of takeover that's been mentioned a lot. I don't know how far along it was. That seems to play a role in the form on the pitch. It's obviously played a key role in the morale on the pitch and off it. I don't. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because when you join, let's put it in any other circumstance. If say I joined a job and they're saying, oh, we'll promise you this, we'll promise you that, and we'll do this for you, and then we'll give you a pay rise and we'll give you much better equipment in 12 months time, and in 6 months time your computer screen's still failing and whatnot. You're going to be fed up and you're going to be looking at other jobs, aren't you? So I don't blame Gareth Ainsworth for that. Did I expect him to go to Gillingham?
No.
I mean, I don't know much about Gillingham's form in League Two. Sure, I don't
Bottom
see
half.
why he would. Yeah, it feels weird. It does feel very weird. Maybe they've got a bigger budget. I don't know. At the end of the day, you've only got a certain amount of time to earn money. I suppose it's longer as a manager, but from what I've been told about Gareth Ainsworth from people behind the scenes, he is a lovely man. So I don't think it's anything to do with him as a person. I just think it's got a lot to do with what's gone on around the club. And, they're going to get relegated. And maybe he's looking at it selfishly and he doesn't want another relegation on.
Yeah.
Maybe he's looking at it as he wants to work in a club that he actually feels he can take forward.
Yeah.
Shrewsbury, did he back himself to bounce straight back? Maybe not. Is it more like, if you come from his point of view on a rebuild, is it more likely he can bring Gillingham up? Or is it Gillingham? We'll go with Gillingham. Maybe he thinks it's more likely he can build them up now than reassess his Shrewsbury squad with a lower budget. I don't know. With football, you never know the full story, do you? So there you go. That's my 2p for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think Gillingham's budget is bigger than Shrewsbury's. I think we just look at the signings Shrewsbury made in January. It's players that Gareth knew, Verdane Oliver, Dominic Gape. They're not players that are wow factor in League One, if that makes sense. That's almost, I hope these players can perform what they did for me at other clubs, and we just managed to get enough results, but they've got no win in 8. His 22 games in charge, he won 5, drew 5 and lost 12 with no win in their last 8. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they're doomed, aren't they? The statement from the chairman at Shrewsbury was rather interesting. I'll try and paraphrase it. And much to our shock and dismay, Gareth Ainsworth has informed that he wishes to leave the club after an offer for a League 2 club. Shrewsbury have done everything to keep him. Failing that, they asked if he would continue to the end of the season, which didn't, in my head, make sense. You may as well get rid of him now and try and get a new manager in before the end of the season so they can evaluate the squad. But Gareth's contract contained a termination clause, which Gillingham initially refused to meet. We made it clear, Shrewsbury made it clear that they wouldn't allow him to leave. Gareth then made it clear he wanted to leave, despite acknowledging the position of the club at the moment. And then Gillingham at 4:41 announced that they would pay the termination fee. A few weeks ago, Shrewsbury offered Gareth a new 2-year extension, regardless of their divisional status. Gareth apparently was pleased with the offer, and everyone was looking forward to a long and mutually beneficial relationship. And they want to quickly get a new man in charge. In terms of men in charge of Shrewsbury, who's the names that are popping into your head immediately?
I did see a quote from my colleagues at BBC Radio Shropshire, who speculated that Rob Edwards may be interested in helping out a couple of friends down in Shrewsbury, which I can, everyone's got a bit of voluntary work in them, I suppose. Is that what Rob Edwards would want? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. You just, I think it's one of them. Do you panic and get someone in and pay them well above what they should be in the 1 in a million chance that they survive relegation? Personally, not. I'd just give it to a youth team coach, give it to a coach at Shrewsbury for the remainder of the remainder of the season and use this time to think about really as a chairman, because you got to think of it as a chairman and as a board. They've been trying to negotiate the sale of a club, I can imagine, to new owners or to new investment. That's evidently fallen through, or looking like it will fall through. So then you've now got to, I'm thinking like I've watched a couple of episodes of The Apprentice, which I have, that you've just got to reevaluate the whole situation. You've got to think about how you operate as a club. Clearly, if they're looking to sell, it's either because they're not enjoying it or they don't have the capital to run the club. You've got to reinvest, reimagine the club, maybe with a new structure, and use this time to reassess, like I say, and bring in someone new, I think.
Yeah, the only man I could think of that would be good at the moment is Dino Mamria. If you want to see his interview,
a good friend, yeah,
back on the channel. Yeah, he seems like the man that could go in and just kind of he's a bit like Ainsworth in the regards that I think he can rejuvenate a football club. He's been out the game 18 months ish now as well, so he's probably
he's desperate for a job. I do know
desperate for a job, and Shrewsbury being relegated will immediately be one of the favourites in League Two, I would imagine, regardless.
But whether he's a manager that could get promotion is like, because like we know, managers have a mould, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't, if I was Shrewsbury. All respect to Marmia, great bloke by all intents and purposes. It's about 10 games too late for him. I think if this happened a couple of months ago, 100% I'd have been on board with it. I just think that there's no point getting, I don't want to say getting your knickers in a twist, be angry at Gareth Ainsworth by all intents and purposes. Obviously, it's a lot of Shrewsbury fans will be quite annoyed, understandably. I think a lot of them just also accept the position that they're in. Yeah. It's been a couple of seasons coming, hasn't it, for them? So, not
the
ideal.
The only other two I had was Matt Taylor.
Yeah.
Who's been out with the since he left Bristol
Rovers,
Rovers earlier in the season, and the other one was John Brady after Northampton. They're the only other two that are been recently appointed from League One clubs that I think could do that job.
John Brady, I like the sound of. Maybe quite a. I don't know if he got Northampton promoted. I think he did, didn't he? So,
he did, yeah.
I like that as a shout, to be fair. But again, I wouldn't rush to appoint anyone. But there you go, Shrewsbury Town fans. Hope we've spent a while talking about you, because if we're honest, we it's these moments we've got to make the most of. We've got to make the most of you, because we're going to be losing you. Please stick around.
Yeah,
because all I'll say is, if you're so hopeful about bouncing back at the first time, you're going to want to keep informed as to what's happening in League One. So make sure you subscribe and you carry on listening to us next season, in the hopes that you know what's happening in League One.
Yeah, hopefully my club won't be in League One next year. Who knows? Speaking of Leyton Orient, they are the first game being covered, mainly because I want a rant about fixtures. And
I'll go and get a drink, shall I, in this bit?
I'm going to try and keep it brief. So they rearrange our game from a Saturday to a Thursday because of Sky. And I understand the finances Sky give to clubs is very reasonable. But why not put it on a Friday? Why a Thursday? So it now being a Thursday means I can't go because of my geographical location and the amount of money it actually cost me to get to the game. So that writes another game of my season card off. Our game last Saturday against Mansfield was called off due to international call-ups. Jamie Donnelly, Ethan Galbraith both go away of Northern Ireland. And I think there was one other who went with an under-21. So they played Tuesday in Sweden, Northern Ireland. Donnelly played 85 minutes and Galbraith got injured after a man-of-the-match performance at the weekend. So they're coming back today. We play them tomorrow. So why don't they reschedule tomorrow's game back to the Saturday now? That doesn't make sense in my head, that we cancelled the game last Saturday because of international call-ups. Our players still technically won't be back training until Thursday, Friday, and they leave our game on Thursday. Why not make the game Friday as well?
I imagine it's got something to do with making sure that they get a League One game on the actual Sky Sports Football instead of Sky Sports Plus. Obviously, it's Sheffield United versus Coventry City in the Championship. Obviously a day later, and that's on Sky Sports Football, which I guess is probably the reason. But again, you'd rather it be played on a Sunday, wouldn't you? If right, I mean, I don't know what football they're showing on Sunday. There's probably some Premier League stuff, but
we can't also do Sunday because of the fixtures next Tuesday.
FA Cup, yeah.
And they're sort of
but then move that
then
you'd move that back to a Wednesday. I don't know. It's all a bit of a faff, isn't it? But it is a bit stupid.
It's also very confusing. The Sky chose Leyton Orient versus Stevenage because the last meetings between the sides have been 0-0, 0-0, 2-2, 0-0, 3-0 Stevenage, 3-0 Stevenage, 1-0, 0-0, 1-0. So it's not exactly very exciting to watch Orient versus Stevenage either. And I think they picked it when we were on our really good run. So they think, oh, playoff hunting team. And then we lost 5 in a row after the game was announced. So
I don't know. It is a bit... I think this year was always going to be difficult with the new way of doing all these new games and whatnot at 12:30. I'm not a traditionalist in many things, but I think 3 p.m. kickoffs is a traditional thing. Like, I wouldn't change that at all. I don't care what sort of money's involved. I'd rather there be less of it. I'd rather the media blackout be gone for 3 p.m. than moving all these games to 12:30. Like, I don't like the fact that you can know what the result of a team below you. I just don't care. Like, I like the drama of it all being at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I agree, because like I think people, it's not just a football game to some people as well. Like, you go out on a Thursday night, for example, you've been at work all day, then you go to the football and you're going home because you've got work on the Friday. On the Saturday, people meet up at 10, 11 a.m. They go to the pub, they go at lunch or whatever. They go see their families. They go home in the evening. They can go to the pub again, go have some food and stay with family members, if that makes sense. And they've still got the Sunday to recover if they're all extremely hungover. But to move games to weekdays consistently not only affects people who live geographically far like me, people who have work during the week and work night shifts, where if you just leave them at Saturday at 3 o'clock, you're affecting a lot less people. And I kind of agree. If you've moved the media blackout, would less people go to games? I don't know, because I think the hardcore fans would still go to the football for the reasons we've just listed.
Yeah. I don't know. It's maybe you lessen the blackout for a certain amount of games a season. I don't know. That it's such an imperfect system, and I'm not going to claim that I know all the answers at all. And this season was always going to be difficult because of it being the first season, and no matter how much you think something through, the first time you do it, it's always difficult. You know, that's the pancake roll of life. The first one is always crap, but the second one tends to be all right. So I'm a bit more hopeful going into next season. But there needs to be. It's happened a couple of times, hasn't it? It's happened on a Thursday, the 20th. Thursday is known for being a bad day to play football. That's why they play the Conference League and the Europa League on that day. That is literally why they do that, because it's such a bad day to play football that if you're not good enough to be in the Champions League, you're forced to play on a Thursday. Yeah. So and like you say, because of international quality, it is not fair. I mean, boo-hoo, you know, they aren't getting paid. You know, they get paid in a week what I get paid in a month, blah, blah, blah. You can throw all of that out there and don't complain. But at the end of the day, no fans benefiting from it at all. No. Like, I'm not benefiting from it. I mean, I wasn't going to watch the game anyway, so of course I'm not going to benefit from it. But no Leyton Orient fan is benefiting from it. You know, the local, you know, think about it as a local business. Who's going to a pub before that game now? Who's going out for a meal before that game for lunch? No one. You get back from work, you know, okay, we have to look through it the stereotypical 9 to 5 lens. You get back from work, get ready for the football, have a quick bite to eat, or don't have a bite to eat and have something at the football. But none of the local businesses are going to benefit. Enough about stupid kickoff times. The game itself is Orient's last shot, I think.
Oh, I agree.
Like, you got to win. Great, well done. You beat Blackpool 2-1. Which I think is a feat in itself to not draw to Blackpool. I think any team who loses or beats Blackpool should be commended, like, either way, because they've not drawn. It's a fair play. Obviously, Stevenage, we just know what Stevenage are. They're very inconsistent. No winning 3 though for them. They played Mansfield Town, Birmingham, and Reading as their last 3. Their last win was Cambridge United at the start of the month, 1-0. I'd love to see the stats of Stevenage is over 2.5 goals a game, because it's got to be rock bottom.
Really low.
Yeah. I'd imagine the only one lower is probably Wigan, who how we've not given them the Stevenage tag as much as we've given Stevenage the Stevenage tag this year, I do not know. I think it's a very drab affair, given it's
so do I.
midweek. Yeah. I'd see it a scraped 1-0 win for Orient here. I mean scraped.
Yeah. The interesting fact about Stevenage I have written down is Stevenage have conceded nearly half of their away goals in the 15 minutes after half time. So I've gone for a 2-1 Orient victory in this one. It's a chance for them to obviously put the pressure on ahead of Saturday's games. Speaking of Saturday's games, the early game on Saturday is probably the game of the weekend, if I'm fair to say, is Charlton versus Huddersfield. The battle for the top 2 and the top 6 is getting a bit feisty, shall we say. Charlton obviously suffered a heavy defeat last time out against a resurgent Peterborough. But this is still kind of in Charlton's hands. They've got to play Huddersfield this weekend. They've still got to play Wycombe, and they've still got to play Wrexham. It's the first time Charlton conceded more than 2 in a game since the 19th of January last time out, and it's only the 3rd time that's actually happened to them in the league this season. And they're the 3rd best team at home in the league with 12 wins, 5 draws, and 2 defeats. In Huddersfield, Joe Taylor come back from injury with a goal against Crawley. Yeah.
He will get injured next time out, though.
Yeah.
He will get injured.
Back from injury, scores, and then gets injured again this week. And they're 3rd best away from home, Huddersfield, on points per game. We have 9 wins, 3 draws, and 6 defeats.
Oh, I don't know. Wigan against Barnsley might have something to say about your biggest game of the weekend.
Sorry, Wigan.
The thing is with Charlton, and I suppose this is, I do quite like stats as much as I mock you for them, is Charlton are incredible defensively. I think, you look at the goals conceded per match, they're 4th in the league with that 0.9. Their issue is they're very average going forward. Now, if this was a Charlton side that managed to keep Alfie May, I'd think we're talking as Charlton as 2nd place and not even close. And I mean, for how much Alfie May has played this season, I don't think it's a huge amount. I don't know whether he is happy with that move to Birmingham. Dare I suggest going to Birmingham and then them signing someone who is worth a lot more money than yourselves? It probably isn't the nicest feeling. So that's my worry with Charlton is they're very good defensively, but they're very average going forward. When they come up against a Huddersfield Town side, who they don't concede a lot either. Like, they're quite good defensively as well, but they have only scored 2 goals more than them this season. That is, 3 goals more than them this season, and that is 3 important goals. Huddersfield, it completely depends on which side turns up, if I'm honest. It really, really does. Because on their day, they went through that form, didn't they, where they were just unbeatable.
Yeah.
And now they just feel very 6th place.
Yeah, they got a lot of injuries, didn't they?
Yeah. Not a resurgent 6th place. They just feel very 6th place. I don't know. I still think it's between them and Bolton for the final playoff place. And I think whichever manager misses out on that, or whichever team misses out on that, they're going to have very angry fans to deal with. Very, very angry fans to deal with. And you should come on the podcast. We'd love to hear your age.
Yes.
I don't know. For this one, I'm very confused. I'm conflicted in my mind here. So that's why I'll just go sod it. Huddersfield win. Joe Taylor will probably break my heart again. And we'll go 2-1.
2-1 Huddersfield, okay. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Interestingly, Huddersfield are 6th in the expected goals, 51.2, and Charlton are 9th with 46.6. And I think that's purely because I think around a third, maybe a bit more, of Charlton's goals have come from set pieces this season.
Oh, well, there you go.
I know set pieces have become a massive part of the game, but teams eventually work out. Like, you look at Arsenal, for example, how effective they are from set pieces. Eventually, teams work out, especially big physical sides, learn how to defend set pieces against you. So that will be a very interesting game. And there will be a podcast later up, I think early next week, later this week, in terms we've got a Charlton a Wycombe and potentially a Wrexham fan coming on to discuss the season and the end of the season ahead. So moving on to Stockport County, they play Burton Albion this season. On Saturday.
Well, they play him
evening.
twice this season. There you go.
Yeah. Stockport lost.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, Sam.
Yeah.
There you go.
Stockport lost in, I used the word controversial style, against Wrexham last time out after a penalty that probably wasn't a penalty was given, and a penalty that was a penalty wasn't given by the referee. They now sit 5 points ahead of 7th and 9 points off second place Wrexham. So it looks like it will be playoffs for Stockport. But they've got to avoid an end of the season calamity because they could drop out with the amount of teams charging after them. Burton's form, after initially being quite good under Gary Bowyer, you're thinking, but they could stay up. They've only got 3 wins in their last 10. They sit 6 points from safety, but do have that game in hand over Bristol, Rovers and Northampton. When the sides met at the Pirelli earlier in the season, it was a 0-0 draw.
That's the big thing for Burn. It's all mentality. I mean, we'll get on to Bristol Rovers against Mansfield Town later on. We'll talk about Northampton against Cambridge as well. Hypothetically speaking, we talk about how it fluctuates all the time. Burton could be 3 points from safety with the game in hand. At 5 o'clock. As much as we say it is dead and buried, there is still a little bit of excitement in this League One season. I'm going to mainly focus on Burton, really, when talking about it, because the big thing for me is Burton are just not playing high enough off the pitch at all. When we talk about touches in the opposition box, I like this stat. It has to be caveated with the amount of big chances a side get. And there are, you have to put it into context of the other matches. But they have 579 touches in the opposition box, which out of context means nothing, right? Mansfield Town at top of this statistic with 935. They play really high up the pitch. And Birmingham City, we know how high up the pitch they play. They've got 900. They're second. Burton Albion at the bottom of that statistic. When you look at big chances, they're 14th, which, to be fair, considering how far back behind the pitch they're playing, is quite impressive. But that kind of alludes to my point about Burton, is the chances they're creating aren't very good. That's why they're 23rd in expected goals. It's all about the chances that they're making. They're not getting the shots away, and they're not getting the right type of shots away. So they need to figure out a way to play higher up the pitch without compromising defense. I mean, every team wants to do this, don't they? They need to figure out a way to play higher up the pitch, the middle of the pitch as well, and getting those high XG chances away, because, it goes without saying, the higher the XG, the more chance you have of actually scoring a goal. And that is Burton's issue. He's pointing out the blatant obvious. Defensive-wise, you're always going to concede goals when you're towards the bottom of the pitch, but they're 19th in terms of, they're 13th in terms of clean sheets, which is not too bad, and they're 16th in terms of goals conceded per match. Which again, they concede double the amount of Birmingham City, but Burton Albion aren't Birmingham City, are they? No. So that's the thing for me for Burton. They need to figure out a way of playing higher up the pitch. I don't know whether Stockport's a team that allows them to do that. Especially with Stockport at home, I think it's going to be difficult for them. I think we can see a draw here. I think we'll go 1-1. Mainly more out of hope of Burton. I think Stockport will I don't want to, dare I suggest they will struggle to have any motivation towards the end of the season. That's my worry for them is when you sneak into the playoffs, you get good form. Yeah. When you're pushing for the title, you go into the playoffs with good form. When you're fifth in the playoff with a 5-point gap to seventh, and when you've got a 9-point gap to second, you got very little to fight for. You're going to have 2 extra games at the end of the season. I do just worry for Stockport's motivation in this running. Yeah. No offense, Stockport fans, but
I think the only thing that if Burton played on the halfway line, on that final point on this, they've got Jack Armour, Sweeney and Van Kooten as the 3, with Goodwin, Malif and Dodgson as their wing-backs. Their team's not full of legs. So if you're, I'll use my team as an example, if you're Orient and you've got Charlie Kelman up front, You're going to give the ball, you're going to pass the ball into the midfield and just launch it over the top and let Callum run after it, and then you're up the pitch.
Yeah.
I don't think Burton have enough pace in their team to play on the halfway line.
That,
But then if they're going to play a low block like your stats suggest, they're also not going to be good on the counter attack because they've got no legs. So they've been very reliant on the form of Burrell and Bodvarsson since they've came in, because Bodvarsson's a very good presser and hold the ball up regardless of his pace. So it's quite interesting conversation by us there, Callum.
No, there you go.
Yeah.
we are educated. I think I got a comment. I will mention that I got a comment saying I needed to step up my analysis. So I've we listen and we learn. Yeah. And you could either take that as us taking the mic, which we're not. We listen to the comments. We read every single person's comments. We read all your predictions, and we take them on board.
Yeah, 100%. We're here to try and please as many people as possible. So moving
with
on to
exceptions.
Moving on to a team who's probably not been pleasing you very much this year, Callum, is Lincoln City. They travel to Wycombe Wanderers, who have 3 wins in their last 8. Mike Dodds has been what we thought would happen, a very inconsistent start with 3 wins, 3 draws and 3 defeats. They got the 6th best home form with 10 wins, 5 draws and 3 defeats. Lincoln's away form, rather interestingly, is worse than Burton's this season. Lincoln are 14th in the away table with 3 wins in their last 10. But the form of one man has particularly taken the attention of Lincoln City at the moment.
Yeah, Jovan McCarmer feels like a man possessed on the right-hand side. We saw a glimpse of it against Crawley Town. He was incredible, where he first played on the right-hand side. And then came the trip to Birmingham City, and it was just anonymous. Lincoln didn't play that formation. At Birmingham, and obviously Birmingham are a different class. But then Lincoln went back to this kind of new 4-2-3-1 with Jovan McCarmer, who's been playing as a left wing back for Rico Hackett, who's been playing as a left wing back for most of this season, as a number 10, which I don't think many people have made that transition this year. But other than Rico Hackett not being incredible as a number 10, Jovan McCarmer's been exceptional on the right-hand side. And I think I heard someone say the other day, when he's a tall, physical bloke, which he is, he's massive, having met him. You can often stereotype him as a target forward, but he's also quite fast and quite intelligent, and he knows how to, play inside the forward and play inside and make those runs from the wide side. It almost feels like now he's got a direction to run. He struggled with just playing down the middle. Now he's got a way to cut in. Yeah. It feels like he's discovered how he likes playing. So Jovan McCarmer's been incredible. For me, this game depends entirely on the back 2. I hope Lincoln play a back 2. If they go back to a back 5, I'll be very worried about this. And when I say a back 2, I mean obviously a back 4. But the 2 fullbacks are quite attacking in modern football, aren't they? It depends for me on the 2 centre backs he plays as well. Skabala has said, I'll be speaking to him tomorrow as well. But Skabala has said that he wants to experiment with the team. Obviously, we know Paddy O'Connor's likely to leave in the summer. It feels like there's been no sorts of talks about his contract publicly anyway. So he said there'll be match weeks where he's not in the squad when it's different centre-back partnerships to figure out what they want to do going forward. So for me, it depends on that. And obviously, it depends who can shut down Richard Kone. I imagine if it's Hamer or if 2 of Hamer, O'Connor and Jackson starts, I back Lincoln to do it. If we're bringing in Lewis Monsma, who is slightly more attacking as a centre-back, I somewhat doubt it. And less physical, which is understandable considering the amount of injuries he's had. But I back Lincoln. I don't know what it is. I just think that the away form's not incredible, but they're just on this run of form. They're the only side in the bottom, from 11th down who have got a positive goal difference in 8. That's helped by a couple of thrashings recently. I back Lincoln to do all right. I'll go 2-0.
Oh, okay. I've gone my other way around. I've gone 2-1 to Wycombe. It's rather interesting you say that about Lincoln, because last year we were so complimentary of how good you were defensively. and you've conceded 45 goals this season, and then you've struggled attackingly, but you've actually scored 53 goals this season, which I thought was rather surprising.
Which is helped by winning 5-0 the other week. But
that's a good point. So moving on to two teams who have had poor seasons by their standards is Rotherham versus Crawley. Scott Lindsay back at Crawley Town after leaving, going to MK Dons, spending all their money, buying players from Crawley, and then going back to Crawley. Won his first game in charge, keeping them within touching distance. They're still 9 points from safety, though. The big thing for Crawley is they concede first. They've conceded first in 6 of their last 8 games, and they've conceded 13 of their 33 away goals between the 15th and 30th minute, which is when Rotherham actually score their least. They've only scored 2 there at home this season. Rotherham should just be about safe on the 45 points. They're 9 clear of the drop, and they're 8th in the home table with 9 wins, 4 draws and 6 defeats. But they are without a clean sheet in the last 5 meetings between the sides.
Yeah, I mean, he's the working man's hero, is Scott Lindsay. Doing what we all wish we could do, going to MK Dons, taking all their money and annoying the heck out of their fan base, which is a lot of fun. MK Dons fans, I'm not hugely worried about you becoming part of part of this podcast very soon. Anyway, this game, I just think it'd be really boring. I don't know whether I think this will be the actual score or whether I just dislike this game. I don't dislike the teams. I just dislike this game. It will be a 0-0. It'll be really boring. I just can't see anything interesting happening.
I think Rotherham will win 2-0, purely because Crawley have conceded 71 goals this season, which is 9 more than the next highest, which is Cambridge and Shrewsbury, have conceded 62. But Crawley have scored 40, which is the most in the bottom 8. So we will see. It sounds like a type of game that Rotherham would just turn up and bully them, I think, and they'll score 2 set pieces, like a Steve Evans side. But his job... It'd be interesting, if you're a Rotherham fan, let us know about Steve Evans in the comments, because we're, from an outsider, we think Evans should probably be sacked. I think that's fair to say, just purely because
he's not been good.
Rotherham United recently have been like a yo-yo sort of club, so shouldn't be mid-table in League One, especially with some of the players you've got. So it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts in the comments. So moving on to a relegation 6-pointer, we've got Bristol Rovers versus Mansfield. Mansfield obviously got their first win in 15 last time out to give themselves some breathing room on 44 points, but they've drawn 3 of their last 5 as well. Out of Mansfield's 52 goals conceded, half of them have been conceded in the first 15 of each halves. Bristol Rovers' home form, though, is solid, like really solid for a bottom half team. 31 of their 42 points have come at home. So I would expect a Bristol Rovers win in this one. I know they're struggling in the forward line with Chris Martin's out injured, and Raul Saturi is also struggling with an injury. I believe Promise on a Chair is also injured. So they are struggling on the front lines. With Mansfield's recent pickup in form, I'm going to think a draw in this one and of a 1-1 scoreline.
I just think this is the weekend where really alarm stations start panicking for Mansfield. I know how good Bristol Rovers are at home, and also good away from home, having getting absolutely smashed by Lincoln City. Up the bastard imps. I struggle to see past the Bristol Rovers win. They are good at home, and I think where the results go against them, I think Mansfield Town could be looking at 19th place come the end of this weekend or something along those lines. I'll go with a Bristol Rovers 2-0 win. 2-0.
Yeah, like you said, it's very interesting at the bottom. You've got 3 points separating 20th to 14th place, so it's all incredibly tight. 2 teams that it's not tight for is Birmingham City and Shrewsbury Town. Birmingham, long way clear at the top. 9 points clear at the top of League One, still going for that record points total. Shrewsbury beaten the lowest points in League One history, the lowest, but they sit lowest in the average possession chart with 42.1%, and Birmingham are highest with 66.8%. Jay Stansfield's back from injury and will be hoping to win the Golden Boot, obviously on 16 goals. He's got Richard Kone and Charlie Kelman breathing down his neck, and Birmingham still the only unbeaten side at home, and I would fully expect them to continue that run, even though Shrewsbury did beat them in Gareth Ainsworth's first game earlier in the season. I think Shrewsbury have kind of just had it now. The thing that they had going for them was Gareth Ainsworth was still there in terms of organising them. He's now left.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be extremely flat, Shrewsbury. And I think for the first time in a little while, I think Birmingham are going to score 4, and I think it'll be 4-0.
This was the game, wasn't it? The reverse fixture where everyone kind of just stood up and were like, Shrewsbury, sorry, what? Because I remember they beat them, didn't they? It would be a very Shrewsbury thing to beat Birmingham, as it was a very Northampton thing to beat Birmingham as well. Sorry, draw against Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, which I still can't believe I predicted that. That was very impressive. I don't, whether they hit 4, I'm not sure. I'll go 3-0.
3-0, okay.
But I will put an asterisk next to that saying, if Shrewsbury beat Birmingham, I did mention it on the podcast.
I'll clip it. If they go and win, I'll go and clip it for you.
I'll take half a point. I'll take half a point if they win.
Moving on to Exeter versus Wrexham. Exeter have only got 2 defeats in their last 8, so they're doing exactly what they did last year. Excellent start, crap in the middle, and a really solid end to the season. Only conceded 2 goals in their last 6 games as well, so they've become pretty solid defensively. And Exeter have conceded 10 of their 27 goals in the 30th and 45th minute. Wrexham are 6th in the away table, which has kind of hampered their charge for a title. 8 wins, 4 draws and 6 defeats is their away form, but they still have Exeter, Cambridge, Wigan and Bristol Rovers all still to play. So a very favourable run to the end of the season for Wrexham. And they've conceded a third of their away goals in the 15th to 30th minute. And in both of the last 6 games for each side, has been less than 3 goals. So I wouldn't expect a goal fest in this one.
The impressive thing for Wrexham, I feel like it's gone slightly under the radar, is just how good of a form that they're in, if I'm honest. Their only defeat since the end of January, it was against Orient a couple of weeks ago, and then against Reading at home, who we know Reading have got great home form as well. So I think Wrexham have gone quite under the radar in terms of their quite decent results. I back them here. I think they've won 1-0 in their last 2 games. Why not make it 3 in a row? 1-0 Wrexham.
That's an excellent point you make about the 1-0s, because they're very, as we know, Phil Parkinson's extremely experienced. They've got extremely experienced squad, and they know how to win promotion. They've won 2 in the last 2 years. Phil Parkinson's managed in the Championship before with Sunderland. I imagine League One, with Sunderland. He knows how to get promoted. So yeah, they've got an extremely experienced squad, and you probably couldn't be better equipped, I don't think, other than Birmingham, to be in this position potentially. Moving into 2 sides who aren't well equipped. Wigan versus Barnsley. Wigan have slowly crept into this relegation battle, I'd say. Kind of blindsided me, because I thought they were comfortable in mid-table. They on 43 points, sitting in 18th place against a Barnsley side who I don't really know how to describe Barnsley. I described them once as that old person driving down a country lane who drives about 10, who gets on your nerves, and then you overtake them and you're like, freedom, and they get a couple of wins, and then you're stuck behind another one and they start losing again. That's the best way I can describe Barnsley at the moment. No clean sheet in 6. They've got the 5th best away from 1 points per game, but their home form is relegation worthy, which is why they're sitting in 11th. Wigan have got 2 wins in their last 8 and a 19th best at home on points per game.
Yeah, dare I suggest this is just a very run-of-the-mill, boring game. I don't think there's a huge amount to analyse in this one. I don't think either. Wigan do need to get a couple of points just to bridge the gap to safety a little bit. They are obviously only well, they've got those games in hand, haven't they? So it's not really a concern for them. They've been in semi-decent mid-table form recently. Barnsley, they're obviously winless in 4, but they got a draw last time out, so thumbs up. Thumbs up to them. I'll go for again. This is one of them that because neither side has got a huge amount to fight for this year. You don't dare I say we don't really care. I'll go 1. I'll go 1-0 Wigan.
Sorry, Seb.
But you know what? Like Seb will admit, like I said he'll laugh it off, but there's just not a huge amount for either team to play for, is there? And it's kind of at the end of the season where it's just like, well, what are we doing here? Are we just here to have a bit of fun?
Yeah, Wigan are also the lowest scorers in the league of 33, even less than Shrewsbury. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this one. Final 3 games now. We've got Blackpool versus Bolton. I didn't realise this. Blackpool have created the most big chances in League One this season with 92, according to my stat website I use. And Birmingham are second with 90. Blackpool also have most accurate long passes per 90, and they're the most home draws in the EFL with 11. Bolton have lost their last 2. So they're now outside the playoff places, and they've conceded 10 of their 27 away goals in the last 15 minutes of matches.
I mean, Blackpool they're a fascinating case study this year, aren't they?
Yes.
Like, they are absolutely fascinating in the fact that they draw a lot of games, and then last of all, they're not drawn once. This draw specialists tag has just been thrown away. I don't really know what to make of it, really, because they've started scoring. Only ahead of them, only Bolton, Wycombe, and Birmingham have scored more than them in the entirety of League One. They even scored more than Peterborough this year. So I don't really know what to make of them. I can't help but feel like it must have been a very frustrating season if you're a Tangerine. I'm really unsure with this one. I'll back. I don't know, because Bolton they're not in the best of form, and you do wonder if a bit of water has been poured over that flame that was going under Steven Schumacher, or if, to pardon the F1 pun, if they've ran a bit out of fuel because of the Schumacher gag there. You should subscribe to the Final Corner, the podcast that the Deck do about Formula One and motorsport. Anyway, plug over. Yeah, just this game. Bolton need the win more. Will they get the win? I'm not sure. I'll go 1-1.
1-1. Okay. I've gone for 2-2. The penultimate game is Cambridge versus Northampton. I think Cambridge are done, personally. They've thrown too many points away with mistakes. When they're winning, they throw it away. Northampton, I still couldn't believe they were still 19th on 42 points. I know if they win, they could really climb the table. But I couldn't believe they were 19th, because I thought Kevin Nolan's gone in and he's done an exceptional job. They've got 1 defeat in 5. They're extremely well organised. They're like a Sam Allardyce team. Well organised. They do the nitty-gritty stuff really, really well, and they get goals from set pieces. An interesting fact, I didn't realise it. In league, not cups, disregard cups, Northampton's last league win at Cambridge was in 2004. Considering these teams seem to play each other every season, I thought that was kind of weird. I think Northampton do win this game. I think they've really impressed me under Kevin Nolan with their organisation and the grit they've got. And I just think Cambridge, like Neil Harris said, like his post-match last week was pretty scathing. So I think Northampton will win 1-0.
I'll talk about a trip to the Abbey. They're going to need a miracle to get 3 points then, if that back record is anything to stand by. I'll start with the dad jokes. I think it'll probably be... I've predicted a lot of 0-0, 1-1s this week. I also kind of think it will be a 1-1. I've said Northampton will finish 5 points above the drop ever since the start of the season. And currently they're 6 points above the drop. So if I've got Burton to draw, then Northampton will lose. Northampton will draw. I'll go 1-1. It'll be 6 points. Sorry, ignore everything I've just said.
And moving on to the final game, Reading versus Peterborough. Obviously, we had Andy Preston on earlier in the week with Jamie. If you haven't seen that, I'd go watch the review podcast with Jamie and Seb. There's a really good interview there, getting all the details on what's going on at Reading. So we highly recommend you go and watch that. Reading home form, excellent. 4th in the home table, 12 wins, 4 draws, 3 defeats. They're unbeaten in their last 8 as well, with 3 wins, 5 draws. So they're really starting to grind out results as well. As a young team, that's an incredibly impressive attribute to have. Posh, I don't know what's happened to Posh since they've beat Wrexham in that EFL trophy thing and they're going to Wembley.
Stop being posh. Yeah, they've stopped being Peterborough. Can you go back to being more interested in Peterborough? We absolutely loved rinsing you. It's really depressing as a Lincoln fan seeing you actually be competent at football. If you finish above us now after this season, I'll be very
I would
upset.
laugh.
I would be very upset. And do you know what? It's likely going to happen. But Reading at home are very good. I just don't know if I can see Peterborough's streak coming to an end. For rivalry's sake, it is. I'll back Reading to win 2-1.
I think this is a really difficult game to predict because as good as Reading are at
100%.
home, Posh are on a really good run. They've got key players back from injury as well. Oh, it's a really tricky one. I'm just going to have to be different because I need to catch you up. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go 2-1 to Peterborough. I need
And
to
what
catch
happened to
you
you
up.
predicting first? What happened to you predicting first that we said?
Yeah, it's a good point. It kind of went out the window after about the first 3 games. Anyway, if you have enjoyed, make sure you leave a like if you're watching on YouTube. Follow us on your preferred Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to us on. And if you're on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe as well to the channel so you don't miss any further uploads. We've got some more unique content coming through towards the end of the season as well as the off season. So thank you all for listening. Look after yourselves, and we hope to see you all in the next podcast.